Okay, we're trying to go live here. Let's make it sure. We got it on private. There we go. Let's go public. I am live. Hello, everybody. I just started going live. I hope you can see me. I'm going to make sure it's double checked. My tech department. Double checking. Let me know who is watching. Making sure we got the right date, which is 7/2. And all right. It is Sunday, July 2nd. Anyone in the States, you might be out there enjoying your 4th of July weekend. I just went surfing, not with that board. I have another board. That board I just surf. I use when I surf with Putin because it's red. So when we go surfing, we talk about how we're going to block the DNC, and that's the board I use. And then when I just go regular surfing, then all right. Hey, all right, it's working. Okay, so last week I tried to do this, and I didn't realize I did it for like a half hour, and I was like, wow, no one's watching. And then my girlfriend pointed out to me that I had it on private and not public. So I'm apologizing for that. I put it out on Twitter and Facebook. So one of the things that I'll just start talking about now is the basically I did a big topic we've been talking about is single-payer healthcare, obviously in California, because the Democrat Anthony Rendon voted it down, or he goes, it's not there yet, let's put it in committee. I did a video how Governor Jerry Brown publicly said, it's how are we going to pay for it? It's $400 billion, we can't figure it out, let's kill it. And then there's video footage of him from 1992 when he was running for president against Bill Clinton, saying, we can absolutely do single-payer health care. And then I did another video of Dick Gephardt, who used to be the House Minority Leader, the Democratic House Minority Leader, who was giving a talk to a bunch of health insurance executives. And when asked about single-payer, he literally laughed and said, not in my lifetime. So this is our Democratic Party, letting us down again, if there's any doubt in your mind. But there are some people running some interesting races out there, really progressive. A lot of younger people are trying to primary corporate Democrats. I don't know, I'm sure many of you watch the Jimmy Dore show, but there's the woman, I believe, I forget her name, Ocasio-Cortez. She's running in New York. It's either, I forget her first name. That's maybe that in 2018 will be the one thing that'll make the Democratic Party change, is if all these corporate Democrats get primaried by young, new, progressive Democrats and progressive politicians, and they just get completely overwhelmed. That could happen. So I'd love to see that. Of course, obviously, guys, here in the live chat, if you're new to it, Arturo Rivera, hey, how are you, my friend? Thanks for watching. Put your questions in the live chat feed here, and I'll start to answer them. In the meantime, and I usually talk for about an hour. So, and then, of course, a way to support the show is you go to the Super Chat. There's a Super Chat feature. There's a little money icon below. If you click on that, you can give money to the show. Your question gets put up in there if this starts getting crowded. Your question stays up there and I see it, and also it's a way to support the show. A lot of other great ways to support the show are letting the ads run all the way through at the very beginning when you watch me on YouTube. And there's an Amazon link. If you need to buy anything, use my affiliate code. That's a great way to support the show. Subscribing, liking, putting this on your social media. Those are all great ways to support the show. And then, of course, there's the Patreon link. Cannon fodder, yes, that would be nice. Bacchus Savants. Hey, Graham. Kamakura here for a few. What's up, Kamakura? Bake Savants and Kamakura on the Twitter. It's great to see some of you that have been following me in other places, either on Twitter or my podcast, Comedy Film Nerds. So I did a video on it, which many of you have seen. I will just talk about how I was fired because of my Twitter feed from a popular movie review company. They hired me to do this live film-related show down at the San Diego Comic-Con later this month. And I was going to be the host, and they were going to have reviewers, and then all this other stuff. And then the guy that hired me, who I've known for a while, seems like a pretty decent dude, calls me up and goes, Graham, there was a reviewer that did a big movie review, and they, I guess, badmouthed Trump, and they took some flack, so everyone's like really on edge. We can't have anything political, no political, and they went and checked my Twitter feed and saw my stuff, basically calling out corporate Democrats, and they fired me because of my Twitter feed, and it cost me some money. And as I said, you know, it was, I had the thought in my mind of, oh God, maybe I should stop doing Political Vigilante. Maybe I should, you know, scrub my Twitter feed and just go back to being silly comedian Graham Elwood and not talking politics. And then I thought about it and was like, nah, that's complete bullshit. You know? I even talked to Jimmy Dore about it, and he said, Graham, I know this sucks right now because you could use the money for that gig, but in the long run, this is better. And wouldn't it suck if you were one of these comedians that couldn't say what he wanted to say because a company told you differently? So that's where that is on that. And I was like, you know what? And then 2 days later, we recorded an episode for my movie podcast, Comedy Film Nerds. And, you know, I told my co-host Chris Mancini the story, and he was like, the hell with them. We can say whatever we want. You know, it's like I do get to talk about movies, and I can say whatever I want. And one of the episodes we did recently, and it's available on iTunes and everywhere, is we did an episode with Jimmy Dore where all we talked about was the movie War Machine, that Brad Pitt movie on Netflix. And, you know, it's a 45-minute discussion, not just about the movie, but also the war in Iraq and everything like that. So, some big corporation, Disney, Comcast, NBC Universal, whatever these giant megacorps are that own all their subsidiaries, they wouldn't let us talk about that, but I can. So, Arturo Rivera, my question, up to and after the election, I was tremendously disappointed by the politics of 80% of comics. Why do you think they are so off, so disconnected? 80% is low. Arturo Rivera, that is a fantastic question. There is not a simple answer. The overall answer is the book that I reference constantly is Death of the Liberal Class. And one of the things Chris Hedges talks about in that book is art used to really challenge those that are in power, right? So in the 20s and 30s, there was art here in America. The theater was really robust. We didn't have TV back then. We had radio, we had theater, and we had magazines and newspapers. And so the theater was really powerful. That was where everybody got their stuff. It's like movies today. And there was a lot of socialist theater because we were in the grips of a recession. It was capitalism run amok. So socialists were like, hey, capitalism is horrifying and it crushes people and we need to talk about that. And that slowly got, wiped out. Even in the 60s and 70s, artists, like, man, you couldn't be a musician or a comedian or even, I mean, TV, like cop shows, TV shows, you had to have a stance. You had to talk about politics. You had to talk about the war in Vietnam. You had to talk about race relations. You had to talk about gender equality, human, civil rights, women's rights. You had to talk about those things. And so what's happened in the 4 decades long slow motion corporate coup of America is you're not rewarded, you're punished. As I was just saying, I was just punished for having political views. So if you're a comedian and you want to make it in show business, you can't be too political. They'll only allow a handful of you to do that. Louis Black, Chris Rock, but, Bill Maher, Stephen Colbert, but even then, look what happens to Colbert. He gets on the big network show, and now he's saying things like Trump isn't the, everyone's saying Trump is the symptom, not the disease. He's the disease. Well, that's just pushing the neoliberal agenda. Same with Bill Maher. Bill Maher, when he had Politically Incorrect and the war in Iraq was going on, he said the guys running the drone strikes were cowards because they're bombing and killing people and they're not putting their lives on the line like someone who's in the infantry. He took so much shit for that. He lost his show. A couple years later, he comes back. HBO gives him a show. But they're like, get your mind right. We can't have you talking any anti-corporate progressive politics. You can say neoliberal shit, but neoliberal is just part of the professional wrestling of red state, blue state. So that's why comedians, they're punished. I was just punished for speaking what I believe in my progressive politics on Twitter. And I don't have 2 million Twitter followers. I have 19,000. That's why most comedians, because you're rewarded if you're banal. Look at Jimmy Fallon. Some of these comics are people I know. But they're punished. Unless you build up your own audience, like Joe Rogan or Jimmy Dore or something like that, and so you're punished. And then where are they getting their news from? They're not getting it from independent media. They're not getting it from YouTube like you guys are. They're getting it from MSNBC and CNN. So they think they're informed and they're not. And they're smart people, but they're just uninformed. And that's part of the corporate state propaganda machine, is to fill everybody with all this bullshit. So then, and you're told to mock, I see comedians that are making fun of the homeless. I'm like, oh, wow, awesome. Way to take down the homeless. How dare the homeless be not born into wealth and be born with mental illness that's untreated and a society that doesn't give a shit about them. So that's why, Arturo, that's why. Mark, comics are owned by big corp. Yeah, they will. Sure. And the more you push the corporate agenda, the more you're rewarded. If I was out there pushing the corporate agenda, maybe I'd have another TV show. I hosted game shows. I hosted Strip Poker for the USA Network. I hosted Cram for the Game Show Network. They were silly, ridiculous game shows. And there's nothing wrong, as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with frivolous art, frivolous entertainment, unless it starts blocking the entry of real art that questions things and questions where we're at. Why do you think? And I love big budget. I loved Wonder Woman. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I loved the Avenger movies. They were awesome. But it's so hard to find a movie that talks about a real political thing, that challenges things. I mean, every once in a while you get a movie that sneaks through, like Spotlight or Moonlight or Lion or something, but you're not going to have a mainstream movie talking about the Flint water crisis. You're not going to have a big budget movie talking about the Dakota Access Pipeline and how it's fucking things up. You just won't. So, there's more of you watching. Don't forget, guys, you hit the super chat button, you put some, you support the show, and then your question pops up because I can't keep up with all of these. Mark, America needs Jon Stewart. Yeah, I'm curious to see if he's going to come out of hiding or not, He was pretty good. At his zenith, he was pretty good. Yeah, Alexander, fuck them. Remember Lenny Bruce? Exactly. Lenny Bruce got put in jail for saying the word cocksucker. Thrown in jail. He was also a heroin addict. That didn't help him. But he was out there pushing things. his goal, and I don't know that, I'm not saying you should do this today or whatever, but like with regard to the N-word, he was like, I want to say it so much that it loses its power. That it's just like, hey, what's up, you son of a bitch? No one's running around going, oh, you're the son of a female dog. That was his goal. He was trying to change popular thinking and what he was doing. Apparently, H.A. Goodman is now accusing Jordan of assassinating Assange. I don't know what that's in reference to. Jordan Sheridan? Or I'm not sure. Baka Savant. So here's a question. Which dystopia do you feel we are more headed towards? Hunger Games, The Purge, Blade Runner, or some amalgam of the three? Made it movie related, cross promotion for comedy film nerds. Thanks, brother. Well, it depends. I mean, all of them, Hunger Games, The Purge, and Blade Runner, all show a giant inequity between the wealthy and the powerful and everybody else. And how that's executed is about that. So Hunger Games is these rich people go into the poor, let the poor districts fight for their survival, right? The Purge is rich people hide behind giant buildings while the poor and everyone gets executed, and we can go out and kill the poor. Imagine if the Purge actually existed. They would just go through poor neighborhoods and just homeless people would just be slaughtered, and they'd be like, see, we cured homelessness. And Blade Runner, again, is a completely corporate dystopian future, and LA is always raining because of the environment. So I would have to say your fourth choice, an amalgam of the three. Jake Smith, what's up, brother? Mark, equilibrium, dystopia makes the most sense. Dystopia. Jake Smith, what happens when you end a super chat? Well, I say bye. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And then you can watch the super chat. Then it lives on my YouTube channel, so you can watch the whole thing again, not live. Arturo Rivera, another question. I've followed you over the years. Doug loves movies and the docs you make. I can't help but notice you've become more radicalized. How did this happen? Fuck you, you Kremlin puppet. No. That's a great question. I think I've always had these views, these progressive views. I've always been very left-leaning, but I've never registered with the Democratic Party, maybe once when I was like in my early 20s, because I didn't want to be blocked out of the primaries. But even that's bullshit. I just, like in 92, I voted for Bill Clinton because we had 12 years of the Republican agenda, 8 years of Reagan and 4 years of George H.W. Bush Sr. So I was like, and I really wanted Jerry Brown in the primary, and I voted for him in the primary, and he lost. So I voted for Bill Clinton because I was like, we got to stop this 12 years of Republicans. And then in 96, I voted for the Libertarian candidate. And a bunch of people, friends of mine, were like, what are you doing, man? What if Bob Dole wins? And I go, Bill Clinton's going to, I was like, I explained the Electoral College to them. It's like, Bill Clinton's going to win. I was living in California at that time. I moved to California in 95. So I was like, Bill Clinton's going to win California. I just don't want to do this. I just don't want to support him. And, the war in Iraq, and that sort of radicalized me a little bit. But then it's been a slow burn. I voted for Obama because I really thought he was going to be I thought he was going to bring about a lot of change. I thought he was going to be like a new FDR. I was really like, wow, he's going to do it. He was talking about green, clean energy in his campaign. I was like, okay, this guy's going to, gas was $5 a gallon. We were in war in Iraq, and I was like, oh, wow. And I think it was the 8 years of Obama. It was losing my house really helped radicalize me, but it didn't happen instantly. And seeing that Obama helped create that environment, he bailed out the banks, and then seeing how he took us from 2 wars to 7 and was like, wait a minute. And I was still sort of in that like, well, at least the Democrats are better than the Republicans because the Republicans have gotten so evil and, they're just out of control. But then it was like, and talking to friends of mine like John Updike that runs openprimaries.org and Jimmy Dore, and having them go, and then it was the election, really. The election pushed it. I was going to war zones too. Like I realized I was just sort of a liberal living in a liberal cocoon. And when I went into the war zones, I realized, oh wow, there's a whole other thing. There's a bunch of people who are joining the military because they don't have options. You know, when the recession hit and I was in Iraq doing shows and guys were telling me I just re-upped because there was no jobs left in my hometown and this is my third tour and they paid me 20 grand to re-enlist, so I did it for the money. I got like so many guys tell me I just did it for the money. They go back to their small town or whatever and there's no jobs. You know, they can go back to college on the GI Bill. That's cool. But what are you going to do? So that's sort of what happened. And then after the election, I just realized I'm not going to stay quiet anymore. And first was just kind of going after Trump and his supporters, but realized, one, many of them just don't want to hear anything. And then I started to realize, but wait a minute. The reason I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary and Jill Stein in the general was because the Democratic Party is bullshit. And I realized there's a better chance of waking up people on the left the way I've woken up than just saying all Trump supporters are dumb racists. Not excusing their racism, not excusing the fact that, hey, you voted for a guy that made fun of people, a disabled person, you made fun of a Gold Star family, which is reprehensible in my opinion. But what created this environment? It wasn't 3 decades of amazing progressive populist policy by the Democratic Party. They're corporate bullshit. And seeing what Clinton did, seeing what Obama did, he deported 2 million people. Then I just was like, that's it. And then seeing what Jimmy Dore had built up and doing the first time I did one of his live shows, I think in April or May, and was like, oh, I'm not alone. It's not a handful of people. There are a bunch of progressives. They do, you know, if you've ever been at Jimmy Dore show live, if you ever get the chance, please go. Because it's like, I didn't feel crazy. And I saw all these women, not just millennials, women in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s who were like progressives. And I was like, that's the whole narrative. And then you see how much bullshit the media really is, pushing that burn bro. It's all just a bunch of violent millennial men that are Bernie supporters is bullshit. So that is why I got radicalized. Alexander, I cannot pronounce your last name. We're already in dystopian future. It's the present. Let's talk about solutions. Well, yeah, here's the solution that I talk about a lot is we need real progressives. We need a Green New Deal. We need to really get rid of corporate, and maybe it means going full socialism. I don't know. I don't know if that's why I put the question on my Patreon page, is capitalism over? No, it won't. I put you had two choices. No, we're going to get real progressives in there to regulate capitalism, or yes, we're done. So that's what I'd like to see, real progressive regulation, a Green New Deal, ending spending all this money on wars, putting money into, giving people $15 an hour base is the minimum wage, giving people health care. Everyone should have free health care. Free health care. Richest country in the most history of the world. Free health care, free college tuition, and build back up our middle class, which makes us stronger, and be this benevolent, powerful nation versus this awful, we're just this awful bully. As George Carlin says, we're an oil company with an army. So, George Carlin said. Jenny Lynn, hashtag we are the majority. That's absolutely right. And that's another reason why, going back to Arturo's question of why I'm doing this, is I want to unify people. I want people to realize that. I want everyone to realize we're the majority. When I hear people that I consider smart, liberals, college-educated people, smart people, who have good jobs and have built up decent lives and careers, say these, oh, single payer is pie in the sky. I want them to realize, no, you're wrong. It's not. So that's one of the reasons I started doing this. And that's one of the reasons, that's a solution to answer several of your questions. That's one of the solutions we can get to now, is first get people to wake up. First get people to stop watching MSNBC and CNN. Get them to cancel their cable. I say cancel your cable. And then the money you're saving from cable, you could support this show, Jimmy Dore's show, Humanist Report, Secular Talk, any of those other ones, and get actual progressive news. Haley Mew. Hey, Graham, thanks for doing what you do. Well, thank you, Haley. Thanks for watching the show. Don't forget, guys, you can support the show by going to the Super Chat. You can donate a little money, and then your question gets up there. So there's a bunch of you watching now, so I can't get to all your questions. So you can support the show and get your question up there. And all of you that do support on the Patreon, where the show's grown and we're getting better, I'm very close to being able to buy like a new laptop. My laptop's very old. And with the new laptop, I can start doing more editing and all this stuff. So you guys are helping the show grow. Where are we at? Kitsy. Venus Project. Jenny Lynn says that. I don't know what the Venus Project is. Mark, have you seen Zeitgeist and the whole resource-based economy thing? I have not seen that. I'm not very familiar with that at all. That's cool, Mark. Send me a link. I'll look into that. Cannon fodder. This is why I registered nonpartisan, because both parties have major flaws. Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's where the Democrats keep missing the point. Is, first of all, 26 million independents were shut out of the last election in the primary level. 26 million independents. And there's this thinking that most independents are liberals, which is not true. You had a lot of independents that are like people who are on the right side, who are like the Republican Party's out to lunch. I don't want to vote for them. Look at how many votes Gary Johnson got. Look how many votes Jill Stein got. Gary Johnson got, I think, 5 million votes to Jill Stein's 1.3 million or something like that. I would wager majority of the Gary Johnson voters were people on the right who were just disgusted by Trump and were never going to vote for Hillary. So I think independents are the largest growing group of voters in the country. And that's the thing. They're independent. So they don't all agree. They're not, you know what I mean? I'm so tired of these two parties. Like, just, there's only a handful of categories. You know, you're pro-life or pro-choice. You're pro-gay marriage or not. Pro-gun, or you're for gun regulation. That's it. That's the whole country. 300 million people falls under those little categories. I mean, it's preposterous. So, Jenny Lynn, the resource-based economy discussed in Zeitgeist, the movie, is from the Venus Project. Oh, okay, that's good to know. I'll look into that. Cannon fodder. The allegory of the cave is a good example of what people need to think about in today's political landscape, for sure. That's the thing. I mean, you can call it the cave thing. I call it, we're all in this team tribalism. We only sit in our little world, and we only vote for our teams, and we don't. If I support this team, then I'm not going to question them. If they do something wrong, I'm going to defend it, and that's nonsense. Jenny Lynn, Gary Johnson is nothing more than a pot-smoking Hillary. That's funny. Yeah, I'm not advocating like Gary Johnson was so great, but I'm just saying when a third-party candidate, the Libertarian Party, which puts no money into any marketing at all, basically the Libertarian Party for the last 30 years has put a product on a shelf in a store and never advertised for it and just hope you walk by and grab it. CJ and PA. Okay, thanks. Wasn't sure if they were connected or not. I don't know. I have to rewatch the Venus Project again. Libertarians are the confused arm of the establishment. Well, that's funny, Mark. What other questions do you have for me, folks? I got about another. I have about another half hour, and I have a little vegan smoothie right here. Jake Smith, is Dr. Jill Stein still relevant? That's a great question. I mean, she did some interesting stuff in the sense that she raised a lot of money. She got a lot of people to bail on the Democratic Party. She was giving an alternative to progressive. She proposed the Green New Deal. She even said after Bernie lost the primary, hey man, you run as president for the Green Party, I'll be your VP. She was big pushing the recount. All of a sudden, all these Democrats that hated her, oh, Jill Stein, you gave us Trump, that blamed her, which is preposterous. I don't know. We'll see what happens in 2020. I think really, because Bernie Sanders is still the most popular politician in America, and 80% of all people and Democrats on the left like him, it'll see what he does. If the Democratic Party tries to shut him out again and draft Bernie works and he decides to run as an independent, then Jill Stein won't be that relevant. I don't say that in like a derogatory sense. I just mean everyone will get behind Bernie. Anyone progressive will get behind Bernie because he has the power to win as an independent. You know, the Republican Party, Lincoln and the Republican Party was this new weird party no one had heard of. The Whigs were in power, and the Whig Party went away because they wouldn't adapt. So maybe that's what needs to happen with the DNC. Baka Savant's got to run later, Graham. Thank you. Thanks, Kamakura. Thanks for coming by. Jenny Lynn, yes, she's still out there fighting. You know, she's fighting the good fight, and she made a good point to talk, going back to the corporate media, going back to the question about comedians. John Oliver, who I like a lot of what John Oliver, he was critical of Obama's drone striking. He's had great stuff about the gun regulation, but then during the election, when Jill Stein started getting a lot of traction, he did a derogatory story about her, and her funding went down. John Oliver works for HBO, which is owned by Time Warner, which is Comcast, or whatever, I think, one of those giant corporations, and their CEO, Jill Stein, sent out a whole email to all of her supporters. Their CEO is in bed with the Clintons, so that's what that happened. So that the Clintons used their corporate power to get the corporate media and a so-called, you know, political comedian who's challenging the powers that be to toe her party line to say, oh, Jill Stein is nuts. That's their tactic. Any real progressive, they smear. They shit on, they smear, or they try to buy them out. CJ and P, nevertheless, Jill. Yeah, she's still persisting. I mean, I guess to say she won't be relevant, I think she'll always be relevant in the sense that she's always going. She looks like she's someone that's always going to be fighting, no matter what. And they try to tie her to Russia and everything else. And I'd love to see the Green Party. I love their platform. I'd love to see the Green Party actually become a legitimate party. Wouldn't it be great to have a debate? 4 candidates? Like, what if in the next election we've got Trump and like whoever the Democrats put up, Elizabeth Warren, and then, you know, Bernie and Jill Stein or the Libertarian. What if we had this like an actual debate, not just, you know, Coke and Pepsi arguing over who gets the market share? It's just basically what the Republican-Democrat debates are. Haley Mew, hashtag draft Bernie. Yeah, I'm down with that. Mark, why does RT seem to be the most accurate news? LOL. It's crazy to me that Russian television is really out there, and you've got Lee Camp there, you've got Chris Hedges. They're doing real stories and real journalism, and it blows me away. It really blows me away, considering knowing what Putin, you know, I'm not pushing the Russia crazy narrative, but, you know, you got to take the facts of that. Putin is from, you know, he came up in the KGB. He's done some pretty bad things. You know, he's killed rivals and stuff like that, and yet that channel exists. It's fantastic. I don't know. Haley Mew, do you think Jeremy Corbyn's campaign would have been successful in the U.S. As it was in the U.K.? Well, that's a great question. If the whole party, so he ran and he got he was the choice for the Labour Party. So he got the whole Labour Party to push his progressive message. So I guess it's like asking, had Bernie gotten the nomination, would Bernie have won? And that's a great question, because the only way that really works is if the majority of the party, of the Democratic Party, does what the majority of the Labour Party did, which is go, okay, the people want a progressive message, we're going to do this. Even though the corporate media in the UK was saying, oh, Corbyn's going to be the end of the Labour Party, which is what they would have said if Bernie had the nomination. Oh, Bernie will be the death of the Democratic Party. He's socialist, crazy, pie in the sky, hippie, he's nuts. I don't know. There's so much more money at stake in America that they would play even dirtier than the UK and would try to crush a real progressive like Corbyn even more. I don't know. I don't know if he would have, quite honestly, because while the UK benefits from war and the UK has BBC and other big machines, it's also a country of 45, 50 million people. We're a country of 300 million people. We have the single largest economy in the world. It goes back and forth. Sometimes China has overtaken us, but I don't know. I think the powers that be would have maybe crushed Corbyn more than they tried to in the UK. That's just my opinion, but who knows? Jenny Lynn, Tesla and Real News Network. Yeah, I've been starting to watch Real News Network. They're pretty cool. Tell us, sir, I'm not very familiar with them. Jake Smith, how do we sleep at night knowing we are bombing 7 countries and our police are killing our own citizens? Yeah, that's a great question. How do we sleep at night? And I think that's what we need. We need a real progressive leader that's willing to ask these questions, because a big part of the problem in America is America doesn't want to face who it is. America wants to sweep it under the rug and make everything look like a nice, cul-de-sac in the suburbs with nice schools and malls, and America doesn't want to look at itself. I live in LA, right? I live by the beach. It's nice and beautiful, but no one wants to face the fact that there is an entire city of homeless people in downtown Los Angeles. It's called Skid Row, and it's unbelievable. It's thousands of people living in tents on the street in Los Angeles. With all of this wealth, America just doesn't want to face it. We don't want to admit the fact that our founding fathers, while had some very brilliant revolutionary ideas about politics and representative government, owned slaves. They were slave owners. They came here and stole land from the Native Americans in very horrifying manners. Just slaughtered people, gave them, blankets full of smallpox or whatever. It's awful. And the Revolutionary War was about they didn't want to pay taxes to the English government. America doesn't want to, and it's like all these, Trump's campaign, Make America Great Again. When? When was it so great? When we stole land from the Native Americans? When we had slaves? When we had to have a civil war because a bunch of southern states owning another human being was better for their economy? When women didn't have the right to vote? When the Great Depression happened and cops and Pinkertons were beating the shit out of and killing striking workers who were being treated like slave labor? Was it the Japanese internment camps? Is that when America was so great? Was it Jim Crow laws? Blacks on the back of the bus, colored water fountains? Is that when America was so great? The Vietnam War? That was money for profit, lying about the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Watergate? Is that when America was so great? Oliver North? On down the line? America needs to face it. They just don't want to face it. America is like, I've said this before, it's like if you found out somebody you loved or cared about was either like a serial killer or a pedophile, there's a part of you as a human that would just, it's too ugly to think about. You would just go, nope, I don't want to face that. Nope. The Catholic Church is still very powerful. It's been raping kids for 1,500 years. And people still go to the church. Like, I don't know how you get over that in the human brain. There's people like, yeah, I'm a Penn State fan. Yay, Joe Paterno had a big high graduation rate. It's crazy to me. It's watching Rachel Maddow go on Access Hollywood after Roger Ailes dies and said, he was a good friend of mine. He revolutionized cable news. I know he had some trouble over there at Fox. Trouble? He was a sexual predator. People don't want to face the ugly truth. They need to face the ugly truth, and then maybe we can fix it. When we realize that, yeah, we are setting the Middle East on fire. It's actually, unfortunately, it's not 7 wars anymore. It's now 8 because we're in Somalia. And we're killing civilians every day, and the American media is hiding that from you. The corporate state is not showing you the footage of the bombs killing, of our bombs killing children in Yemen. It's not showing you that. When America faces that fact, when they face, look what we do so we can all have cheap gasoline. We're not paying $9, $10 a gallon like they are in other parts of the world, like Western Europe. We're paying $2, $2.50, $2.50, $3 at the most. America doesn't want to face that. America wants its nice, shiny diamond rings. They don't want to know that it comes from slave labor in Africa. They don't want to know that. So America needs to face it. Once America faces that, then they can wake up and go, hey, this country has some serious fucking problems. It's like an active alcoholic. If they're not willing to admit, I have a problem with alcohol, then I don't know what you can do. And America is like a country that has a gambling problem, an obesity problem, a rage problem, and an alcohol problem. And they don't want to admit any of them. And they're shopaholics. Jake Smith, what will the Dem Party look like if Jaffe beats Princess Pelosi? Oh, boy. That might be the last hope. The Democratic Party starts really gutting themselves from these corporate Democrats, it'll really change. But I honestly, the more each day, each week, each story I read, each story I do for this show makes me believe that we just need to get rid of the Democratic Party and need a new party. I just don't see them. Even if that happens, like let's say they vote out Pelosi, well, that'll be great. I don't see the Democratic Party, they're just not going to give up their power. The corrupt and powerful never change their ways. They go down in flames and try to take everyone down with them. That's what I think. Jenny Lynn Blood Diamonds. Cannon fodder, yes, we are slaves to the almighty dollar. Speaking of the almighty dollar that we're slaves to, how about supporting the Superchat, supporting the Political Vigilante? CJ and PA, I'm the same as Jimmy, went to Catholic school and a classmate of mine killed himself recently because he couldn't overcome what happened to him. Yeah, man, that's a horrible reality. I was raised Catholic too. And there's a website, 1in6.org. And that's the number of men that are sexually assaulted, but the Catholic priests assault young boys and girls. Sexual assault is awful when it happens to anybody. And why people that are victims of that refer to themselves as survivors is it's true, and most people can't face that reality, and there's a high level of drug addiction and alcoholism and a high level of suicide because it's just too painful to face. And that's like what America is. Anna Dietz, I called Senator Warren and she officially has no position on single player. Please get the word out. Jesus Christ. See, that's the thing. And let's not be fooled by Senator Warren. First of all, ask this question. Why didn't she run against Hillary? Either Hillary offered her said, hey, if don't run against me and I'll give you a big position, Secretary of State or something like that, or the Clintons threatened her. So Elizabeth Warren does some decent stuff publicly and she fights for some good causes, but she's a corporate Democrat. She's a rich kid. So that's who she is. And that's who the Democratic Party is going to push. They're going to push somebody like her, or Chelsea Clinton, or Hillary again just might go, I'm running again, I was cheating. She's such a narcissistic psychopath that she might just do that. So Elizabeth Warren is going to give you corporate speak double talk on why we can't. Single payer, it's good and we like it, but there's some things we need to analyze. Anytime they start doing that bullshit, you know they're not behind it because they're getting money. Anytime. Anytime. Just know that. Okay? Just know that. So it's good you called Senator Warren's office. Yeah, we should all call Senator Warren's office and go, hey, how come you're not for single payer? It's pretty simple. A real progressive politician, a real hashtag resist politician would be like, but she does that sneaky thing that the Democrats do. Her Twitter feed is all caps, hashtag resist and all this stuff. And you're taking health care away from blah, blah, blah. 22 million people, Mr. Trump. Have you no decency? Well, she's getting big pharma money. Be careful for them. Turio Rivera, I'm a Catholic too. Do you think the church is going in a better direction or bullshit? Watch the Netflix documentary series. It's about 6 or 7 episodes. The Keepers, and that'll show you where the Catholic Church is going. Now, because they're this big corporation that's been around for 1,500 years, now they got this team of highly paid lawyers that come in and make, rape survivors sound like lunatics in court. And they defend pedophiles and rapists. So no, the Catholic Church is fucking awful. Raised Catholic, fuck the Catholic Church. If I ran for president, I would say that. Digital tyranny. Hey Graham, I hear rumors that the DNC used Chris Kovacs's voter suppression program cross-check during the primaries to knock Dems off the rolls. Any way to verify that? I don't know if there's a way to verify that. I would love to see. I mean, that's a great question. Is there a way? But so the corporate media is not going to go into that story. No way. So we need a real journalist. We need like the lawyers that are pushing the DNC lawsuit in Florida. We need somebody like that to go verify that. I don't know. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you 2 things. One, I haven't seen enough evidence to support that, so I can't say definitively. But number 2, I will say this. I wouldn't put that past the Democrats. This idea that only the Republicans gerrymander, only the Republicans do that, and they're evil, and they took away all those votes in Wisconsin. That's a big thing that Democrats and Hillary supporters say. And yeah, that's valid if the Republicans did that, which I don't doubt that they did. But this notion that the Democrats are not capable of that, they're the noble party, is complete bullshit. The Democrats are threatened by progressives. So they threw out independents. They threw out people that voted by mail because there were higher levels of Bernie supporters voting by mail. People that were younger. They took younger registered Democrats, tossed out a lot of them because most younger registered Democrats were voting for Bernie. They did a lot of shifty shit. So I wouldn't doubt this at all. I would like to see more, and I don't know how to verify it. That's the thing. Once this show gets bigger, one of the things I want to do is hire journalists. The way TYT hires Jordan Sheridan to go out, and I would be like, dig into that. Report from this every day. Tell me what's going on. I would have somebody at the DNC lawsuit reporting from the courthouse every day. What are they saying? What's going on? That's what I want to do. What else we got here? You guys are talking to each other. That's good. Jake Smith, does anyone still think Trump is funny? Yeah, I don't think he's just, yeah. He's just a ridiculous buffoon. And if he gets impeached, it's because the corporate state said, we want, Trump's buffoonery is costing us money. We need Mike Pence in there. Because if Mike Pence is in there, will everybody keep resisting? That's my fear. All the neoliberals that are doing the marches and everything, which are good, they're good statements, but I feel like too many people think that's it. That's the extent of their resisting, is going on a march. Like, Jimmy Dore reported this. There was a sign that got viral of a guy holding up a sign at one of the marches that if Hillary would have won, we'd be at brunch by now. And then someone else tweeted, therein lies the problem. That's the problem. Nobody was paying attention. There were no marches, giant marches during 8 years of Obama. There should have been millions of people marching against the drone strikes that Obama did. There should have been millions of people marching against the illegal war in Yemen. There's a humanitarian food crisis that we're creating, the United States is creating, that our tax dollars are paying for. There should have been a 1 million person march about that. There should have been millions. The 5.2 million people that lost their homes to foreclosure from Obama bailing out the banking industry and letting them regulate their own money, and they realize it's more profitable to foreclose on people than help them out. How come those 5.2 million people didn't protest that? Because they were at brunch. Mark, Jordan gave those DNC lawsuit people several videos, and they are total jerks to him. That's interesting. Anna Dietz, sign me up. I will be a journalist for you. Oh, well, let's talk about that. Maybe there's a way to do that. If you want to do any digging for me, email me separately. Email info@grahamelwood.com, and we can talk more about that. That'd be cool. Have somebody doing some research and talking about stories. That'd be awesome. Got about another 10 minutes or so. Anybody have any more questions for me on this lovely Super Chat Sunday? So I understand that like it's 2 o'clock and on the West Coast when I started this and 5 o'clock on the East Coast. I realized that it's like beginning summer and this is holiday weekend. You might be out at a barbecue or whatever, and I get that. So I'm I have a pre-existing commitment a couple Sundays a month, so those are when I'll have to do this at 2. When I don't have that, I'm going to try to do it a little later, like maybe 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. That seems like more people might be able to. Oh, this is good. We got 40 people watching. It's still pretty cool. Pete D. I was raised Catholic too and ditched the Catholic Church a long time ago. The corruption is still with us, but I think Pope Francis is being very courageous. Old Catholic power hates him. Yeah. You get a progressive pope, which I don't know if those words could ever actually go together, but I hope, but I don't know. I kind of feel like they're one of these old power institutions that, you know, the Roman Empire, how long were they around and they still went under? I don't know. Haley Mew, any plans for the 4th? Yeah, probably go to a parade and maybe hit the beach. What are your plans for the 4th? CJ and PA, let me just say that my 74-year-old mom makes up things about whose fault it is that Hillary lost. So believe me, they aren't fooling anyone. Makes up things about... yeah. But that's part of a thing, too. If you look at Hillary's... As I tweeted this during the election, Hillary represents everything that's wrong in American politics, and Trump represents everything that's wrong in America. So the Hillary refusing to take responsibility, that's a problem in America. How often do people say, oh man, I'm so sorry. I was on my bike yesterday, and these 2 women in a nice BMW did this like illegal turn and almost came into the bike path and almost hit me, and I was like, whoa! And they're just looking at me. The driver was like, sorry. And I go, what are you doing? And then the girl in the passenger seat leads on her window. She's like, it wasn't that close. And I was like, just admit you're wrong. And I'm screaming this on the street. Just admit you're wrong, rich girl. She couldn't do it. That's a problem in America. People just can't. It says on your insurance card, on the back of your insurance card, it says if you get into an accident, don't admit fault, it says on your insurance card. Because that's the corporate state. Because they don't want to pay for the insurance, even if it is your fault. So we're taught, don't admit fault. It's not my fault. You got to get a lawyer. You can't admit that. I remember, I'm a Cubs fan, right? And Sammy Sosa in the late 90s, he got busted for a corked bat. It was obvious. He was a home run king, and his bat broke, and somebody saw that there was cork in it, and he wouldn't admit it. I remember talking to a buddy of mine. And he said to me, what's he supposed to do, admit it? And I go, yes. I go, if you were a parent, is that what you would tell your kids? Hey, lie and tell you, if you get caught, lie all the way to the end. And he kind of looked at me like, huh? That's a prevailing attitude, never admit fault in America. And it's a problem with this fucking country. Hire a lawyer, never admit fault. Don't come forward and go, I screwed up, it was my fault, I'm sorry. Trump will never say that, and fucking Hillary Clinton will never goddamn say that. That's the problem with America. So if you have children, teach them how to admit fault. And if they're like, but Daddy, I want a cookie, you don't get a cookie. Teach them how to clean stuff, do chores. You have to clean your room. You don't clean your room, you don't get the iPad. That's why I don't have kids. Alexander Ostojic. Sorry, I mispronounced your names. I'm sorry. I was raised Orthodox and ditched it a long time ago for all the same reasons you guys left the Catholic way. I also have some Muslim friends that did the same. Do you see a pattern here? Oh, yeah. I think what's happening in the world is all of these old institutions and old patterns are starting to crumble apart, and that's what's falling apart. That's what's falling apart. Big corporations, big churches. I know a lot of people. I don't know if you're a free-thinking person. I don't know. I understand wanting a spiritual life or you know, I understand going to a church or a temple or a mosque, and there's a sense of fellowship, and everybody gets along, and we talk about what happens when we die and all that stuff. But then most churches are just used to control people. So it becomes a huge problem. Pete D., great point about Americans not looking at themselves and taking responsibility when we mess up. Yeah, it's endemic of everybody. It's endemic of everybody. The whole country is taught to not take responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault in America. We are a nation of spoiled little victims. It's always somebody else's fault. Old patterns are crumbling. Yes, they are, PT. CJ and P, I never had kids, can't move up the class chain, and I realized that by age 13. Jenny Lynn, just be Buddhist, people. Yeah, I got a little Buddhist thing above my TV. I like, of all the religions I've studied, and there's a great book, The World's Religions, that goes into all the major religions. And one of the things it found was that the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that not that word for word, but that sentiment exists in every major religion. It's a great book. I got to go in a couple minutes, so a couple more questions. Leah Lennon, I've been saying this for months. No one can admit fault. It's cool to blame others instead of owning up to it. Yeah, it's easier. Then you got to look in the mirror and admit, oh, this is the mistakes I made. I lost my house, and I blame a lot of it on Obama and the system for sure. There's some mistakes I made. I should have started renting my house out. I started renting it out in like October of 2008. If I would have started renting it out 6 or 7 or a year earlier, I'd probably still own it. And that's my fault. I'll take responsibility for that. A global economy and a corrupt banking and politicians, that's not my fault, but I'll take responsibility for that. Haley Muse, Jenny would say, yeah, children of alcoholics. Jenny Walker, can I be Taoist instead? Taoism's pretty decent. It doesn't get the traction that the Buddhists get. Alexander Orjovic, I lived in Sri Lanka for a time, and I'm not convinced about Buddhism. Yeah, let's question everything, too. There's nothing wrong with that. Jake Smith said, the voters' fault Hillary lost. Yeah, it's certainly not the fact that she ran no campaign. First politician to just be entitled to your vote. Zox Ovox, how many grams is an Elwood? Ha ha, that's how many, motherfucker. Atheist, right on. Well, you guys, we're just coming up on an hour. Thank you so much, and atheist and anarchist here. Okay, Raymond Smith, sweet dude. Let me write this. Here's the Patreon page. You can support it. You get bonus content, bonus video. I just released the bonus video for the week last night. You get bonus audio. I'm starting to do the a weekly edition of the podcast. The most recent one is I interviewed Jimmy Dore about the state of independent media and why he came to do what he did. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Awesome. We had like 40-some people watching. You guys are awesome. And it's CA and PJ. It's been great being here, everybody. Thanks, everyone, Graham. Yeah, it's great. I love this community. I love the questions you guys ask and the questions you ask each other. And you guys are really cool. And I've been doing this super chat thing for a couple months now. And not once have we had a wingbird on here saying a bunch of stupid bullshit. No trolls. It's been all really smart questions. And I dig this community. I dig the conversations we have. I dig the questions. I dig the debates. We don't all have to agree, but we're all reasonable people. So it's really awesome, and keep spreading the word. You guys are fantastic, and when I get down sometimes, it's your guys' comments in my videos and doing the super chat thing and your support on the Patreon and spreading the videos. That's kind of what keeps me going. So you guys are making this show happen. You're making the show better. The support you've given me either through the super chat or the Patreon. One of the reasons this is because I had to buy software to do this. And it's how I'm increasing and making the show better. So I love it. You guys are fantastic. And I really appreciate it. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're in America, enjoy the rest of the holidays. Have fun on the 4th of July. Stay safe. And I'll be posting what I do, videos every day like I've been doing. Thanks to you folks. So thanks for making America great. And don't go surfing with Putin. Surfing with Putin is why Hillary lost. Wait, what? Oh, this whole hour was a waste. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much. And spread the word. You've helped me grow. The show, I had 164 subscribers when I dropped my first video January 2nd of this year. Now we've got over 3,800 subscribers. That's because of you guys. Thank you so much, everybody.